The week ahead. Okay, so last week we had a short week. And really, it feels like over the last 2 weeks, we've done not a lot, but tighten up. As Charting Man Dan at the Chart Guys always says, after a big move, there tends to be consolidation, one of the most common patterns in the stock market. So we had this big move down here on ES, and then since then, we've been like, here was the top, came down, set lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low. And then we sort of, it remains to be seen what's going to happen here. Are we going to zigzag some more? What's going to happen in the coming week? I'd say maybe a couple of days more of tightening up in here, and then we're going to break one way or the other, right? Now you might be looking at this saying, yeah, but what about this drop down here? Well, yeah, that happens. Not every pattern is perfect. What are you going to do? But it didn't, I mean, as far as when I'm looking at this and I'm just thinking about overall, what's the pattern? Yes, this is a tightening range. It tried to go lower. It failed to do so. So that was, again, just another higher low. We broke above this lower high here, but then it wasn't able to get back above this high. So in the end, it just resolves to more tightening. And so I don't put a lot of credence into that, being meaningful in any way. All right, so looking at this, wanted to talk about that, wanted to talk about QQQ and how that looks in comparison. I trade tech primarily. And so same thing, this almost could be the exact same chart, even across the extended trading hours and stuff. So 12-hour tightening range is the name of the game, and we'll see how this breaks next week. So one thing I've heard that Peter Resnicek at Shadow Trader talk about, which I thought was really enlightening, and it was something that I had never heard before, was the wall of worry. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. It's something that I noticed when we came out of the 2022 or 2021 quote unquote bear market, and we started rallying again after we finally set a bottom. The rally didn't, to me, feel like we were ever going to get out of it. It felt like a slow crawl. And actually, when you think about trading in general, what do they say? Like stairs up and elevator down, right? Like typically when stocks move up, they do it slowly, but when they move down, they do it quickly. And I actually think there's two reasons why trading as a bear is hard. One is because it happens so fast. And two is because the rest of the time it's just going up. And primarily, for the most part, overall, up wins, right? And so I think that as we look at what's happening in the charts right now, everybody's asking and thinking, is this going to be the bottom? I don't know. It could be the bottom, but what I'm seeing here in this chart is it feels like what I've always seen, which is the wall of worry. Like it's not going to be an easy path to move back up. It's going to feel every moment like we're going to crash, like we're going to roll over and we're going to tank again, and you're never going to feel confident. Which was a big downfall of my trading earlier in my career. And I'm trying to fix that, right? I'm looking at this and trying to think, okay, I just need to look at the chart and I need to be aware of how stocks move. And the reality is that a V shape from here to highs is unlikely without some crazy catalyst. And I just don't see that on the horizon. So more likely what's going to happen is everybody's going to remain bearish, and the bears will remain bearish even to all-time highs. And that happens because of this wall of worry that just sort of hangs over everybody. So I can't trade against the wall of worry. And for that reason, I don't pay much attention to what is going on Twitter. I don't watch the news. I really just look at the charts, and I try to let the charts tell me what's going on. And when I look at the charts, what I see is, higher lows and higher highs, lower highs and lower highs as well. So we're getting lower highs and higher lows, so tightening up really. And we need to see which way it's going to break. That means balance rules are going to be in play when the break does come. And you could get this thing where if we broke down out of balance and it doesn't find acceptance down there, right? We don't hold lower or ascend lower, then that means we're going to go back up and test the highs of this range again, and vice versa. If we break out of it and we don't find acceptance up it, like look at all this balance from here, we don't find acceptance up here, boom, it's gonna have to go down and test the lows again. So generally speaking, that's really what I'm looking at. I think that at this point now, if you want to be in a trade, you probably need to be positioned in it already, which is why last week I was looking at, what are the charts that I'm interested in, and Walmart was one that caught my eye because from the highs and the lows, it actually broke above those those highs previous. Like basically, it didn't sink as far as the others in the drop, and then it's gone up higher since. And I tried to catch the bottom of it on this bearish day with Powell, when Powell was talking, and he basically tanked the market, saying that he was not going to help out with any Fed tightening rates or loosening rates. And instead, we tanked that day, and I tried to catch a bottom here right in the middle of the day, and I got stopped out. And I, at that point, gave up on trying. And the next day, I basically bought the open. We had a little dip on the open. I bought that. And then into the rally to the end of the day, I sold half with a stop below that low. And I'm hopeful that that's the bottom, and we actually don't go back down from there. We'll see. But I'm positioned for it just in case we do rally from here, because this is one of the strongest names. And so I thought this was my best bet to get into a trade that I could swing if we break bullishly out of this trend. What I didn't do is hedge short, which I'm a little disappointed in. We'll see. I think at this point it's getting so tight here on Qs that it's going to be difficult to position bearishly. I think if we do come back up and test this spike high, it's worth a shot. I might give it a go. We'll see. But that's what I'm thinking about. That's how I'm approaching this market and thinking about it going forward. The one thing I'll also talk about is gold. So everybody's talking about metals and metal miners because it's just been out of control. This move is just wild. And I even was talking to my parents here on Easter Sunday, and they mentioned that one of my father's sisters, my aunt, had asked him about precious metals and should she invest in them. And if that's not a topping signal, I don't know what is. Like I look at this and I'm like, I don't want to buy up here. Like let's look at the monthly. Look at this. This is just accelerating to the upside, and like I don't. It's just too high. I'm just not interested up here personally, and I think it's a bad time to buy. So another thing, I'm looking at the chart. I'm like, what else is the chart telling me that this might be a bad sign to buy right now? I mean, number one, I do believe in the wall of worry, and I think that we do have a chance of probably on the Qs. You know, look at the weekly chart, for example. Let's have a look here. Yeah. You know, pushing a little bit higher and setting a higher or a lower high up here somewhere, right? I think that's a possibility. And even on, let's look at the monthly, getting a monthly lower high, you know, we'll see. Are we going to actually, on the monthly time frame, start tightening up here for a long time? Are we going to push back up to highs? Are we going to set a lower high and get a downtrend? That all remains to be seen. But in the short term, I do think that we have the potential of you know, pushing up here at some point and getting higher. And if that happens, if we climb the wall of worry, that's not good for gold, because that means that everybody who's bullish gold right now and has their money coming out of the market and putting it into gold, they're going to have to realize, oh, the market's going up. I better take some money out of gold and put it back into you know, after they've made their profit here, they're going to have to put it back into the stock market as it goes back up. And so I look at this also, and I'm like, look at the peak here, and then a lower high here on the RSI, where we have a high and a higher high there. That is a bearish divergence. And so I think that this is ready to slow down and at least come back in and set a higher low. If not, begin, you know, maybe a head and shoulders pattern where, you know, we set this, maybe set a lower high, and then come back down again. I mean, I'm not predicting what's going to happen, but I think if the market climbs the wall of worry, something like this is much more likely to occur. And that's it. So I hope you guys have a great week trading. I wish you the best, and we'll see you later. Good luck.